Hello there. Welcome to part 6 of the Kyosho Vintage Big Boss, Big Brute, Big Boss restoration series that I'm doing here. There's an update on the Big Boss. I made a Big Brute for the shelf, kind of a full restoration, reproduction body and stickers, then a Big Boss for the track, for bashing, and I'm working on a Big Brute for bashing. Was working on the Big Brute. Things weren't working out very well, ran into a couple of issues, and then I actually transferred the stuff over to finish up the Big Boss. I've had it out for 2 runs with mediocre success. First, I was struggling with some range, didn't have the antenna extended, so I put the antenna where it's supposed to go. That got a little bit better. I'm using an old school Futaba Magnum Sport AM transmitter. That's got to go really, but receivers for my Futaba 4PM racing transmitter are like 100 a piece, so I'm not sure when I'm going to actually start putting modern receivers in these things, if I ever will. I did do a cool modification to the steering, which you could not get away with in the past. The kit came with a real old school plastic servo saver, and they're pretty junky and they break pretty easily. But if you're using an old vintage servo, you had no choice. You had to run that servo saver. I went with a Amazon modern low-end servo, but it's Metal Gear, and it's got lots of torque for this kind of a setup. And it's kind of hard to see, but I removed the servo saver and went with just one of the horns that came with the servo. I used 2 of the brass grommets that are typically used to put into the ears of the servo for mounting it, and a longer 256 bolt with a nut on the back of the servo horn, and it works great. Check this out. Nice quick response, very solid, no slop. I'm not worried about ruining that servo because it's just the vehicle's just not big enough, heavy enough, fast enough to really damage that servo. And it's $20 if it does get damaged. Speed control, Amazon, cheap, whatever. Battery is actually a Reedy brand battery, 2S stick pack, LiPo. That's the receiver for the Futaba transmitter. The motor, I'll flip this over. The motor is actually a 12-turn. If it's not a Traxxas, I think it's a Traxxas Titan. It's basically what's in a Traxxas two-wheel drive slash 12-turn brushed. There's a bit of a problem. I'm getting like a cogging, the kind of thing you would get from a brushless censored system without a sensor wire. And I didn't know what the deal was, what could possibly be causing it. And then my buddy Paul, who also a vintage RC guy, he has all his original stuff. He's like, probably capacitors. When we used brushless motors in the past with ESCs, we needed capacitors to prevent glitching, if you will. Well, sure enough, here's another Titan branded Traxxas motor, and there they are. There's the capacitors. There's none on that motor. So I'm going to try and remove those capacitors from that motor and solder them onto this motor and see if that solves the problem. And take it out for another rip and hopefully get some footage of this thing ripping around the backyard. One thing has to be repaired. Flip this over again for you. The ball cups that are on this vehicle are vintage, and there's 2 different sizes. Towards later edition kits, when they came out, they built these up. They were much more durable, larger, and lasted longer, more durable, because there was just more material. This is one of the original ones in here. And see if we can get some more light on the situation here. Stand by. Nothing but the best production quality for you guys. Here we go. So that ball cup there has got a crack in it. It did not last long. Not a big deal though. The truck already has some larger, beefier more modern ones. You can see these are like Dubro heavy duty ones, cut to fit. So the steering already has some beefed up ones, and I'll do the same back here. I believe the one on the inside is a little tight to get a big one on there, but there'll be no problem getting a larger one on here. And even if it has, instead of going on a ball stud, some of them have a ball inside the cup, and you just put a bolt through with a nut. So that'll be an easy enough fix. But first, to get rid of that cogging effect, and I was complaining that I was losing radio signal. So maybe, again, it all comes down to the lack of capacitors. So that's my next project, solder some capacitors onto that motor and hopefully solve that problem. And when that happens, I'll come back for a part 7. Bye for now.